podcast. For myself, John Kelly, and Jeremiah Stringer, the king of Kentucky backpacking, we want to welcome you to another episode of the podcast. Mr. Jeremiah, how are you this fine 90-something degree day?
I'm trying to stay cool, dude.
Man, I hear
Luckily,
that.
my job is inside. It's not so lucky all year round, but right now I'm very thankful. Look outside, see my truck tires sticking to the blacktop, my parking spot, and I say, "Yeah, I'm glad I'm inside right now."
Yeah, I bet you all the people like in Arizona and California are just laughing at us right now. They're just like pansies. People down in South Florida, they're all like, yeah, hold my beer, you know?
Yeah, you're right, dude. I had a company that sent me a like electric bike a
Mhm.
while back, and they keep emailing me, and they're like, "Hey, when's this gonna go in a video? When's this gonna be integrated in?" You know. And I was in Spain, I wasn't able to do it, and I just got an email a couple days ago, and they're like, "Hey, we're just checking back in, you know, because this is expensive. You know, those bikes are expensive, and they
Yeah.
want something sending it to me." And I said, "Yeah, I'm gonna put it in a camping video." Plan on taking it camping with me because I thought, you know, at the campground that'd be fun to ride around, maybe take it to the
Yeah.
lake or whatever.
It's a good
Let
spot to
Bridget
do that.
take it around. Yeah, and I said, well, I plan on putting in a camp video, and right now it is like 36 degrees Celsius because this is a, I think it's a Chinese company,
Okay.
pretty sure. But I figured they're using Celsius over there, so told them it's about 36 degrees Celsius, and that is way too hot for me to be camping. So let me get back to you September, October.
Yeah.
Then maybe we'll get some relief. We'll see.
Well, and it's funny because I've got cousins in Arizona, and they all like 100-degree heat, but the humidity is like 10% or 20%.
Yeah, it's a little different
Yeah, and
here.
like here it's like 95%.
We you've been over to the house. We bought this house, you know, a year or two ago, and it's got a basement. It's the first house I've ever had with a basement my whole life. And we got the air conditioning worked on multiple times, and the basements, they just love being damp. And so
Mhm.
I talked to the air conditioning guy, and I was like, "What should I do?" He said, "You can set the basement on 68 in the summertime because it's so humid here, and get you a dehumidifier." So I went to Lowe's and started shopping for a dehumidifier. This is when we first moved in, and dude, they are expensive. I think it was like $300 just for this little one to
Mhm.
suck the moisture out of the air. And my AC guy, he said you need to switch out this thermostat, like the one that the previous owner had, just didn't work. So that was the first thing before we can even get the AC working down here. And he said you need to get this specific one. It's got like a little screen and stuff, tells you humidity inside and outside. I can empty that thing 3 times a day, and it will just stay at 60%. Try and keep it 50 to 60% down there. It's so, I don't know if it's because 'cause I'm close to the lake or what,
Well, that
or
probably
maybe
plays a part in it, I would guess.
I'm sure it doesn't help, but it's just that Kentucky weather, but I digress.
We're okay. Because here's the thing, our winters aren't that bad.
No, we do okay in the
So
winter.
we'll be all right. We'll be all right. Actually, backpacking in the winter in Kentucky is kind of awesome, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, dude, you
I,
can't go wrong. If you get snow, it's awesome. If you don't,
yeah.
still feels amazing.
Yeah, it's never that cold. Well, I mean it can, but it's a rare occasion, you know? It's like in certain places where it gets down to like negative temperatures all the time. We just don't have that here. So wintertime's like 30s, 20s. And I don't know about you, but I sleep really well on those nights.
Yeah, that 0-degree undercoil.
Oh
And the other
yeah.
good thing is the gear that you buy doesn't have to be rated for extreme temperatures because 'cause you're not gonna get into that. So you don't have to go out here and get a negative 30-degree bag, you
Yeah, you're
know?
not layering quilts and all that kind of stuff. You're just kind of enjoying
I tell you,
the lovely
Jason,
weather.
Mr. Backpacking with Jason, sir, he showed me his jacket. He got this as a Christmas gift. Um, he Mrs. Backpacking said, "What can I get you?" And he said, "I've had my eye on this Arc'teryx, puffy jacket." And I don't know if you've messed around with those, but they are really nice. I mean, they are pretty penny.
They're not cheap, that's
They're
for sure.
Yeah, and he It stuffs into the pocket. He actually brought it. He may have brought it on our kayaking trip. No, couldn't have been because that
It's
was the
too hot
summer.
for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been the last cold trip that we took. I don't remember where we went. We taken a lot of trips together, but he said, "I'm trying out my new jacket." He showed me it stuffs into the pocket and zips up in its own pocket for self storage, and it compresses down and it's smaller than a football, which is saying something for a big, big puffy jacket like what he
Yeah.
had.
Yeah. Definitely. Now, here's a question. You have a list for us to talk about today. You have something that you a topic that you've got, and I think it could relate to what we're talking about right now a little bit.
Yeah, dude. I picked out this topic for us to talk about today, and I made quite a few videos on it in the past, so people are familiar with my YouTube channel, Jeremiah Stringer Hikes. Um,
Oh, you have a YouTube channel?
I have a YouTube channel.
Uh, I
So,
have one, and I neglect it. So let's keep going.
okay, we'll keep on the podcast. Um, I I picked out the topic of backpacking and hiking mistakes. I think it's always
Yeah.
fun to talk about, and unfortunately, it seems no matter how proficient you get at backpacking, you still seem to make some of the common mistakes, or you find a new mistake you didn't even know that you could make. Like
Mhm.
the last trip that I went on, I got I got to our campsite, right? And everything's awesome. You get everything set up. Night is beginning to fall. And what I always do is before it gets too dark, I'll go over to my hammock and I like to put my headlamp around my ridge line of my hammock. That way I know exactly where it is whenever I need it. And I'll loop it through itself. So I go get my headlamp and I go to put it on. Click, nothing. Click, nothing. So I hold in the button to check the battery. Dead. It had come on the whole time that I was out there, and then by the time night came around, since it had been on all day, you know, the runtime on those, I don't know how long they are, but it's not like 12 hours. So, I don't know if it came on in the truck or what, but long story short, then you're stuck with the cell phone light.
Yep.
Have you been
And
there?
y'all, I've been through that, dude. I've done it. I don't know anybody who had. I mean, I'm sure most people haven't, but I've had mine usually in my fanny pack on the front of my pack,
Yeah.
and if something happened. I think I set my camera in there, and I must have hit the button, and it was daytime, so I didn't notice that the light was on. And so I was setting things up for camp, and grabbed my headlamp, put it around my neck, and left my phone in the tent.
Yeah, I do that. I hang it around my
I
neck.
was I was charging my phone in the tent. So I walked out to the campsite, sat down, was eating dinner, talking to everybody, having a good old time. And it started to get dark. And I was like, well, boys, I'm going to head back to the tent. Dude, it was everything I could do not to trip over every root and rock and everything on the way because I couldn't see squat. So somebody had to actually, who wasn't a dunce like me, put their headlamp on and walked with me back to my tent.
It's
So
embarrassing.
oh man, I felt so dumb. And as soon as I got into the tent, I'm charging it, charging the headlamp. But of course,
Yeah,
that's also the danger of the rechargeable headlamps because
yeah.
the ones that use batteries can last like something like 30 something hours, you know?
Yes, it's ridiculously long.
Yeah. So I mean, but that's the chance you take when you're doing rechargeable versus a battery one. And if you know your headlamp, most headlamps have a lock that you can put on them. Pushing the button a certain way so that it doesn't do that. So
Yeah, I was kicking myself because I got out there and that feature is on my headlamp.
yeah,
But unfortunately for me, I did not utilize that feature. Sometimes you're too smart for your own good.
I know you're like I'm never gonna do that,
Oh, no.
and then
And
you do it.
so here's the other thing. If you're just going on an overnight, sometimes, I only have a few things that use a micro USB cord. So sometimes on an overnight, you're like, I'm not really gonna need, I'm not really gonna need that.
I don't
So
need to charge my headlamp. I'm just using it tonight.
yeah, why would I? I'm gonna be back home. Like I'm gonna be gone for what, 15 hours? I'm going out there for an evening.
Right.
It's all fine. We'll head back in the morning. Yeah, I ended up having to borrow, Jason's cord
Oh, that's
because
awesome.
yeah, I left it at home, bro.
That's awesome. That's
I'm
awesome.
always learning. Okay, you ready for another one?
Yeah, I've actually got one for you
Oh, okay, awesome.
because we were
Yeah.
talking about hot weather, and it
Uh-huh.
just like it was something I thought about. A lot of people in hot weather, especially if they're not from down around here, they go out and it's going to be like it is right now, where it's like gonna be 95 degrees during the day, and it's
Mhm.
only going to get down to 75 overnight. Don't bring a puffy jacket. Don't bring like a bunch of clothing that you need for cold weather, because when you're hiking in hot weather, every step is more difficult. Heat is oppressive. Heat is so oppressive. And that's why for me in the summertime I started doing the tent, because it's just lighter. I have the Durston X Mid Pro 2, which is a Dyneema tent, weighs all of like 19 ounces. So I the summertime I'm actually ultra light. Like literally my base weight's I think 8 point something pounds in the summertime, because every step on a hill in the summer is way more oppressive than it is in the wintertime or in the spring or the fall. It's so like don't bring things you don't need. Like it's amazing. Like bring a raincoat, that's fine, but you don't need to bring like a puffy and a fleece and a knit hat, and you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, you don't need gloves, you don't need hot hands.
yeah, you just don't need those things. It's different maybe if you're going to be like in the Smoky Mountains where you're going up however many thousands of feet and it's going to be colder up there. But if you're in places where it's just not going to be cold at night at all, like it's not even be cool at night,
Mhm.
save yourself the trouble.
Dude, I looked at the weather and I thought that it wasn't going to be I was like, "This is gonna be very mild." So I
Hmm.
decided I was gonna hammock camp, and I brought my 40-degree under, and I was like, "Man, I'm gonna sweat to death in here. It's summertime." And I brought, like a really, really light, uh, top quilt, and
Yeah.
I brought a liner just in case. I was like, "I might not need this quilt. I might just do the liner." Dude, it got down to like 58 or 62. I
Where
was
was
so
this?
this was when we were at the lake. I
Oh,
don't know if it's
you're not right by the lake. Yeah, that makes sense.
I yeah, maybe the lake is just cooling everything down, and, we took the kayaks out, and it was dark. We was checking out the moon, checking out the stars and everything, and I was cold. My shorts were wet. We went back to the fire, I dried off, changed clothes, and I crawled in that hammock, and I was like, "Thank God I actually brought an underquilt," because I thought about just, I was
Yeah.
like, "Ah, if it's gonna be, 78 degrees tonight, I'm not gonna need an underquilt." Besides, like, mosquitoes, they can bite through your
So did
hammock.
your weather forecast tell you it was going to be 78 degrees?
Oh, I don't know. This is a few weeks ago. I say I checked it. I
So
might
you
not even checked it. If we're being honest, I might have just been like, "Dude, it's August. What am I doing?
Yeah,
It's
we
August."
actually just had the coolest first 2 weeks of August
Isn't that
that we've had in years.
weird?
And then this week it's gonna be like 100 degrees this week.
Yeah. Yeah, it sucks. I'm definitely not heading out, in this hot weather.
Yeah, it's probably good to check the weather forecast. That probably helps.
Yeah, maybe do that.
Never assume the weather. But of course, if you're doing more than one night, you may want to bring that puffy jacket. I'm just talking like the overnight quick trip, you know. There's no sense in bringing a bunch of extra stuff for that. So, yeah,
I
man,
think
it is going to be hot. Look, I'm going to tell you these temperatures this week.
yeah.
94, 95, 99, 91. And then it drops down to like happy temperatures like 83 and 84.
I
So
like I like the happy temperatures.
I like happy temperatures. And then
Dude,
we're getting really close to really happy temperatures soon.
I like the hot too, though. Like over the weekend, our friends, they a few weeks ago had bought a boat.
Oh,
And
wow.
let me tell you about this real quick, actually.
Is this a backpacking mistake that you had? Was getting on a boat?
Now, the next one I want to give you is a gear mistake. This is an
Mm,
expensive one too. That's my little teaser. All
okay.
right. You know how like you're listening to a radio show or something, and they're like, and after we get back, we got a gear mistake
Oh.
that is going to cost you more money than any other mistake after these messages.
So this is your commercial break.
This is a little story break just because it's our podcast. We can talk about whatever we want. So, our friends got the boat, right? And we had to cancel last weekend because it was absolutely pouring the rain. It's supposed to rain for like an hour, and then it rained just cats and dogs all evening, all afternoon, all evening. So you miss the hot part of the day. You want to take the boat out, and you can't. So then they're like, okay, well, if you can come next Saturday, we're going to do it again. All right. I get to the ramp, and they're always hassling me about being late. So I got there. I was still late, all right, but I was only like 17 minutes late. Like,
Okay.
we're all meeting at noon. All right, noon on a Saturday. I think I can do it.
17 minutes is kind of early for you, actually.
Oh, well, it depends on the circumstance. I like to be fashionably late. You never want to show up too early to, get together. It's a little bit weird. Sitting there's only 3 other people. You're just waiting on everybody to trickle in. The host is still getting stuff ready. You're like, what am I doing? So I'm only 17 minutes late, and I beat them there. All right. Because my buddy said, hey, we left our car at the church. We drove 2 different vehicles, left one. Can you stop by there and see if the car's unlocked because the life jackets are in there? We have some other life jackets. They're not the nice ones, but they'll get the job done
Yeah.
because you have to have one life jacket for every person that you take on the boat, according to the
Right.
state law.
Right.
So we stopped by the church and the car's locked. I text him, and then we drive onto the boat ramp. Well, they have the key to the car, so they actually had to drive over, which made us earlier than them. We're actually the first ones there. So we park, and this is the first time that we've all launched this boat together. Okay. So they
Okay.
took it out. They took it out like a few days after they bought it just to test it out and make sure, we want this, blah, 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 blah. So I think the boat runs. I'm going to show up. So they say, who knows how to drive a boat? Okay. There's 2
Wait, it's
people.
their boat and they don't know how to drive a boat?
Well, there's 2 people. My buddy says that how they put those stickers on like new driver cars, like I'm a student driver, watch out, basically. Or like if you're in England, they have like the learner's permit in the window
Right,
or
right,
whatever.
right, right.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
license plate. Who knows how to drive a boat? Well, there's 2 people that know how to drive the boat. One is the person that bought it, and the other is me.
Okay.
Okay? Now, next question. Who knows how to back the boat into the water? And there's only 2 people that can back the boat into the water, and it's the same 2 people. Because ever since I started fishing, and had a driver's license, your job is to back the boat into the water.
Right,
Your
right.
uncle or dad or whoever's like, I'll line it up for you, back it in, I'll get it, you park,
I'll
then you
unhook
come on.
everything. I'll
Yeah,
get it in the water. Yeah.
we'll be good to go. So I've been through it multiple times. We live by the lake. So I say, one of us is gonna have to drive this boat, and the other's gonna have to back the trailer. My
Uh-huh.
buddy's like, well, who wants to do what? And he says he's not super good at backing trailers. That's explicitly why he picked the boat ramp that he did, because it's like 4 or 5 lanes wide. He's like,
Oh,
we're
yeah,
sitting
yeah.
there for 10 minutes. I'm trying to jiggle around with stuff and figure this out and unload it. I don't want to feel pressured because
Other
there's
people have a chance to get their boats out still. Yeah.
you get 12 people at the top of the ramp waiting to launch, and then you're
Right.
down there and they're looking at you.
That makes
So
sense.
I say, I'll back the boat in. Everybody just hop in the boat. So they get in the boat. We take it from the parking lot down to the boat ramp. I circle us around, back it into the water. Everything's fine. Everybody's in the boat. My buddy has the key in, turns it, click, 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 click,
Is
click.
there any fuel?
There's no battery juice.
The battery's dead?
The battery is dead. So I put the emergency brake on in the truck, right? Put it in park, put the e-brake on,
Uh-huh.
get out, walk back there. And I'm like, guys, what's going on? And they're like, the battery's dead, but it's okay. We have this portable charger to juice up the battery. So we sit there for like 5 minutes. They're juicing up the battery. Finally get it started. I get back in the truck after we get the boat launched, drive it back up, come back down. We go out and we have our boat day, and everybody wants to stop and swim, right? So we've tubed. we water skied. We want to stop and just chill, maybe have a couple drinks, a snack, and hop in and swim.
So did the battery die again?
Well, I'm like, hold on a second before you turn this boat off. 'Cause at this point, it's if you drive 20 minutes away from the ramp, that's a pretty good drive back.
Yeah, and I'm guessing they don't have any long, like, Viking oars or anything for you guys to row back with.
Well, as soon as it's funny you say that because as soon as they said the battery's dead, I said, hold on, before we get this boat running, do you all have an oar, at least one oar in this boat?
Right.
So at the very least, we can paddle over to another boat and get a tow.
Yeah.
If you're just sitting there, people just assume that you're just swimming, and then you're
Right.
stuck trying to wave people down or calling somebody and see if they can drive over and tug you in. So there was an oar down with the cheap orange life jackets that they had purchased, and we stopped. Everybody's ready to swim, and I say, I want everybody to cross their fingers because once we turn this boat off, there's no going back.
Gotta hope it comes back on.
Yes. So we jump in, we swim, we get back on the boat after a while. Success. The boat starts back up. We're able to drive back.
Man, that's good. That's good because it didn't sound like it was gonna be that way.
Well, to new boaters, there's only one thing harder than launching the boat, and it's getting
It's
the
getting
boat
it
out of
back
the
on the
water.
pier.
Now, it took a few tries. We had to adjust how much of the trailer was sticking out of the water, how much was in the water, where to park the truck, etc. But the boat might have come back on crooked the first try. We might have had to push it back out. And ordinarily, you would hit you'd hit the trailer, and then you would give the boat a little bit of throttle to push it up,
Right.
so that whenever you ratchet it down, it's already in position.
Right.
That is not what that is not what occurred. He just parked the boat on the trailer, and he's like, "Hook it up and ring and
Wanted to
ratchet."
pull it up.
Yeah, it's a little bit embarrassing because there's like a boat on each side of you, and these people are acting as professionals. These boats, you have a boat 8 times the size of the one that we're on, and they have no issues launching it, and they
Yeah.
have no issues taking it out of the water. I got to tell you, man, it was a total experience, but we all survived.
Please tell me you
And
videoed that.
no, I didn't video any of it. That's funny.
Oh, missed
But
opportunity right there, man. Total missed opportunity.
I think I was telling this whole story because of being early or being late, and we had a little bet because they all wanted to go get food after we got done on the boat, and we did. We went to Buffalo Wings and Rings.
I love that
There's
place.
Yeah, it's great. Their
Yeah.
chicken, they give you more wings than B Dubs, which is
And you get to choose so many more options.
yeah, it's a good establishment, good plug for them. Check out Buffalo Wings and Rings if you haven't. You can get you some wings and rings.
And if you're from corporate for Buffalo Wings and Rings, we'd love to do a sponsorship with you.
Oh yeah, dude. I'd love to get in on some free wings.
That would be awesome.
So as we're leaving, my buddy's like, "Hey, dude, 6 o'clock, right? We're meeting at 6 o'clock at Wings and Rings." And I'm like, "Yes, I'll be there before 6." And he's like, "There's not a chance you'll be there before 6." I was like, all right, let's make a bet on it. Let's make a bet. He says, "Okay, let's make a bet." I say, "All right, what do you want to bet?" He's like, "You decide." And I was like, "How about you have to buy the other person's food?" And I was like, I think that'd make a good bet. He's like, "All right." And then right as I'm about to get in my truck, I look at my clock and it says like 4:45. And I say, "That's not long. I still got to go home and change clothes and then drive there." So I say, how about just a beer? You know, who if I don't make it there before 6, then I have to buy you a beer or vice versa. He says, "All right, I'll agree to that." Dude, we're about to leave the house and it is like 5:48. I'm like 12 minutes. I think I can drive there in 12 minutes. I check it. I say, "Hey Siri, give me directions to," oh, she actually picked up. I asked her to give me directions to, Buffalo Wings and Rings. She says it's a 15-minute drive. I say, "No, I got 12 minutes." But apparently it's totally wrong because I checked Google and it was like, it's a 9-minute drive. Well, long story short on this part, we pulled in the parking lot at 5:59, walked in the restaurant at 6, and decided to call it a tie because we had not decided if you had to be there before
Before
6,
6 or after
at
6?
6. Yeah, or after. So, neither of us had to buy anything, for the other person. Good day. It was a
But you
great day.
also didn't make people wait.
I did not. Actually, we had to wait on there was one other couple that were coming, but they're actually camping, so their campground was like 30 minutes away.
Yeah,
So by the time we got a couple apps, a couple drinks and waited on them, but yeah, hadn't told you about that, so I guess a good story to tell on here,
that's
maybe.
good. That's good. Now tell me about some mistakes here, man. Give me a
All
good
right.
mistake.
All right. I have a good one for you. The most expensive mistake that you can make, in my opinion, other than maybe accidentally burning your gear, like Mr. Backpacking with Jason said,
All right.
is whenever you get home, not letting your gear dry before you
Oh,
start. And
yes.
this is one thing that I think is
Yes.
disgusting. Some people, they'll stick their stuff like even I'll bring a plate with me, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes paper plate, sometimes reusable. Some people stick those dirty dishes back in their stuff, and I think that's absolutely disgusting. But it could be like you washed your stuff, you like your cookware, your plate, all that kind of stuff, and then before it's dried, you put it back in its gear storage.
Yeah.
But the more expensive one is your
The
underquilt or
tent.
your top quilt or your
See,
tent.
I think
Yeah.
the tent is the most expensive one. And I am guilty of this one. So
Uh-oh,
that's why
tell
when
me
you said
about
it,
it.
I went, "Oh man."
What happened with your tent, dude?
So it was it's my family tent that's the issue. Um, I took my kids out camping at a friend's farm, and it's this massive tent. It's like 6 foot something. You could stand up inside of it. That's how tall it is.
Well, big boy.
It is a massive tent. And so I took it out there, and the humidity was just awful. And we woke up the next morning. It looked like it rained on the tent, but there was no rain. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
And so we had to get going that morning, and it's a huge. I mean, when I say it's massive, it's massive. And so we needed to get going that morning. And so I grabbed it real quick, shoved it into there. And I was like, I got to make sure when I get home, I let this sit out so it can dry out. 4 months later, did you catch that? 4 months later,
4 months.
I pull out this awful smelling tent when I'm at a campsite, realizing I never dried this tent out. And the tent's not in the best shape anymore. And it does not smell good, and there's black mold parts inside. I mean, just the whole thing's gross now, and I'm actually actively shopping for another family tent because this one's just it's torched. You know what I mean? Like it's frustrating that I let it get to that. That was and it was one of those things of, you're with your kids and you're trying to make sure everything gets done and you get home and then all of a sudden you've got stuff that you have to do that day and then I just completely forgot about the tent.
Oh,
And
forgot and not neglected.
Oh, completely forgot it. Just completely forgot. And yeah, so long story short, man, don't do that to your tents because it really screws them up. And like
Look,
the
time to
taped
retire
areas, the
that.
taped areas because of what I did actually dried out, like because of the way the moisture works.
Mhm.
So it messed up the tape on the inside of it. So all the taped areas, the tape has come loose and it's just a big mess. Now it's just a glorified, nasty, smelly palace to hang out in when you know it's not going to rain.
Oh, yeah, retire that
So,
bad boy. The big tents though, man, they're so expensive. It's hard to swallow the cost of replacing those. Cause we bought one and I had a gift card for an online site, and I
yeah,
was like, "I'm gonna cash this in and get this big one so we can use it, for a family tent like you said."
yeah. I'm gonna tell
I'll
you though,
tell
I
you.
love the tent. It's ruined because of the very thing you just said, and you can't leave. I left I guess it was the Outdoor Vitals. What is the 40th 2-person tent? I left that one for a few days one time by accident, and I pulled it out and set it up in my front yard to let it dry out. And
Uh-huh.
because it's a sil poly, I guess a sil poly or sil nylon, whichever one it is.
Yeah.
Um, when I first set it up, it looked like there were whelps in the fabric.
What's that mean, whelps?
You ever get hit somewhere and you get a bump on your leg?
Oh, I thought those were called welts with a T. Is it with a
Whatever, welts, whelps. I mean, it just depends on what part of the country you're from. But
Welch?
I mean, we're not gonna put on airs for people outside of the South. You don't know what that means. Um, but so
Straight out on that.
yeah, there you go. So, but there was these little bumps that were formed from the water that was on the tent where it had soaked into the fabric. Now,
Right.
luckily, you just leave it out in the sun and those things disappear and they're fine. But
Okay.
if I'd have left it for much longer, I could have potentially done permanent damage to my tent. So you just got to be really careful with water, man. You gotta make sure you take care of your gear.
Yeah, and you know what I do, for I do it for most of my containers actually, but
Yeah.
especially the ones that something could have moisture, like I keep all of my bladders and filters and stuff in one container together. One thing you can do is like drill holes in the top of the container lid or in the sides, depending on what kind of container you have. And those little packets that come in everything that's shipped. Hopefully
Silica
this
packs.
isn't Yeah, the silica packets. Hopefully this isn't slowly poisoning me because I'm putting them everywhere in all this gear and I'm using the gear. So if I end up with cancer, I had to sue the silica packet companies, which I probably lose. It's my own fault for putting them everywhere.
It's my
But
fault, but I'm suing them.
well, but hopefully I can get them some way. But yeah,
That's
dude,
great.
you can put those like if you save them, you get stuff from Amazon or whatever, you can
Right.
save those and throw those in your gear storage,
Oh
however you
yeah.
store gear.
Oh yeah. So
You
what's
want to do
next,
one?
man? What's our
You want to
next
do?
what's our next failure?
Yeah, I was going to ask if you want to do one more. Um, we'll wrap this sucker up. I got this gnat, dude. It's been bothering me the whole show. Keeps flying around. I Googled what causes a bunch of gnats, and it said,
What?
dude, I have been overrun with
Woo,
gnats.
buddy.
I've been overrun with gnats here at the house. We had it treated, and I have these gnats. I don't know. I was like Googling, is there a big wave of gnats coming through, or is it the time of year, or what is the deal? And it said humidity. It
Yeah.
said it said moisture and humidity,
Yep.
and it'll drive them into your house. And so
Yep.
here we are. So anyway, it's been aggravating me. Um, man, I got so many. I'm gonna pick one for you. I think I'm gonna go with. I think I'm gonna go with. I'm deciding, dude. I thought about doing a poop one. Thought about doing a poop one because we talk about poop on here.
Well, now you don't have to because you've already talked about it.
It's all
Yeah,
secure in Sector 7.
I talked about it by proxy.
Right.
Okay, I'll do a little poop one. All right.
Okay.
I'm gonna string a couple together dealing with poop.
Okay.
All right. First one is not digging a cat hole. Right. We talked about that a lot. You even live on the air decided to buy yourself a brand new spade so you can dig your cat holes. But I also wanted to there it is, the packed. You got it packed together. I also wanted to mention about the location of your pooping. Okay.
Okay.
If I remember right, Mr. Andrew Skirka brought this one up last time we had him on, and it is the appropriate location for your poop. It has to be away from water sources. Well, they
Yes.
say 200 feet. Is it
Yes.
100 feet, 200 feet?
I think it's 200 feet.
200 feet, bury your poop. Has to be away from the water source.
Yeah.
And Do you remember what happened with his situation?
It depends on which situation you're talking about. Are we talking about the one with the grizzly bear?
No, that was a wild one too. But no, I was talking about where he set his tent up.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah, you remember? Okay, I'll let you tell everybody real quick what happened with Mr. Skirka.
Well, here's the thing. If you're gonna poop, it should be in a cat hole and buried. And it should never be in a campsite. Like and Jeremiah, I'm actually gonna tell you when it happened to me at the Red River Gorge. I had a campsite planned
Oh,
out for me and some friends.
yeah, yeah.
And we, literally, it was just, it's right next to a parking lot because we were going to get up the next day and actually backpack, and we were just going to get there late. We got there super late. It was dark, but there's a campsite right behind this parking lot that rarely anybody uses. So it's
Yeah.
like we could go to that campsite and just camp out and we'll be fine. I'll set my hammock up in this one spot. There's these two trees. It's a great spot to do a hammock camp. So we get in there, and right between the two trees, someone has dropped a deuce and left all the toilet paper sitting there.
Oh, did they at least put the toilet paper on top of the poop?
It was next to it.
Next to it.
But it
Well,
was a pile of it, and it was like out in the open. It wasn't even. I've never been so disappointed in my entire life because it's the perfect spot for a hammock. It's the perfect distance between the trees. The land below it is completely devoid of any vegetation, and we're talking, it's the perfect hammock spot. And I couldn't. There was no way. I'm not going to sleep over top of poop all night. So I
Let
ended
me
up having to go find another spot. We actually went to a different campsite because it was so gross. None of us wanted to be around it because it's not a huge campsite. But I'm like thinking to myself, who literally walks into a campsite, drops trowel, and leaves it right there?
somebody with a bathroom emergency, but you'd think that you would at least dig a hole and then scrape it in there.
You would think you wouldn't do it in open ground on the campsite. Like you would walk off the campsite at least 15 feet or so. You know what I mean? Where people aren't
People are
just going to see. I mean, there's a trail that goes right through there. It's like, who the heck does this? So there it is.
now, there's billions of people on this earth, and
But
I gotta
billions of
tell
people
you,
don't hike.
with billions of people, you're gonna have some dummies. It's terrible.
It's terrible. Come on,
I,
people. It's feces. It's gross.
I got two things to say here.
Okay, I
this.
got to hear them. Number
Okay.
one.
Number one, what's going on, hikers? That was not it. That was my voice. That wasn't me. That was past Jeremiah. Number one, how magnificent, or is there a campsite you can imagine that is so magnificent that you are willing in these tight quarters to take care of this deuce? How magnificent does that campsite have to be?
Wait, what do you mean?
Meaning there's poop there, but you need the spot. And the only way to get the spot is to move the poop. You're either going to bury it yourself.
I'll find
or
another
dispose
spot.
of it.
I'm not touching someone else's turd.
No, you
Like
don't
it's not
have-
happening.
Hold on a second now. You do not have to touch it.
I'm not moving someone else's stuff. No.
How? So you're saying there is not a camp spot that is so magnificent that you would be willing to dispose of this fecal matter?
No. No.
You're declaring that right now.
Yeah, I am. That's gross. Like there's levels of gross, and then there's that. That's just what I can't do it. What about you? Is there one that's so magnificent you're willing to do it?
Oh, yeah. I don't think it's as big of a deal as you think.
Moving someone else's bodily waste.
Well, it's
Because
not like
here's a wild card for you. There's a wild card with this.
Here we go now. Here we go.
Something that looks solid isn't necessarily solid.
That is true.
So you could think, oh, I just gotta, grab a Ziploc bag or something, just scoop it like a doggy thing. Well, what happens if you do that and it just squishes and it goes all over the place?
Well, all right. Now you're throwing
There's
me
a
for
wild
loop
card I
here.
don't want to deal with, and that's my wild card, and I just can't do it, man.
I don't
It's
know
so.
why.
By the way, I apologize to everybody that we're even talking about this right now.
Why does your brain go to Ziploc bag scoop and poop like picking up dog poop?
Well, what are you gonna do, man? How are you gonna move it?
I was only gonna move it like a foot, less than a foot.
But what if you
Here-
can't move it less than a foot and still be able to use the campsite?
Well, it's gonna be circumstantial, and that's true.
That's
But
what I'm
here's what.
saying. Like, there's absolutely campsites I'm not gonna go at if I have to move someone else's fecal matter.
Okay, let's imagine for a second that we're in a world with the best campsite. Okay,
Okay.
you want this campsite. You want it so bad.
Okay. Here's a question: Are you with me?
Hold on now.
No, answer the question. Are you with me on this campsite? Are we together going to this campsite?
We're not gonna hold hands and move this poop.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. You just got to answer the question. Are we both going to be there?
We can both be there if you want.
Okay, good. I'll let you have that part of the campsite. I'll have the other part of the campsite. Everything's good. I'm down. Let's go.
Okay, here's what I was thinking.
Woo, buddy.
Oh, that's funny. I like the drop. I like
I had to do it. I had to cut you out completely there for a second.
Here's where my brain went. I
Okay.
didn't go to scoop the poop. I went with some of these sites have a broken shovel around, and I'm going to dig me a little hole next to the poop. And I'm going to, you never been on the AT? See, you're giving me questionable looks. You never been on the AT?
You're
and-
throwing a lot of like variables into this that you can't guarantee.
well,
Like
I made
if you
up
were to
a
look at
whole-
me and go, "Hey, if there was a small like shovel nearby and you could dig that up, carry it off your campsite and bury it off the campsite, well, yeah, I'll do that. But
All right,
I'm being
touche.
realistic here. That's not
Touche.
happening.
Realistically, I'm carrying a small shovel, and it's called the Deuce of Spades.
I'm just taking you out right now.
We
can't even do this.
Okay, let me. I'll finish with this. All right, we'll throw the second thing away. I'll
Okay.
finish with
Okay. Go
All
ahead.
right. Using whatever method that you want, trekking pole, deuce of spade, a random shovel that was left because you're in the poop area on the AT near a shelter, but there's no privy, whatever circumstances, a
Yes.
stick. Hopefully the soil is loose enough to dig. Otherwise, this is null and void. I'm going to dig a hole close to the poop, and then I'm going to rake that poop in there and probably some of the dirt that was just under the poop. Hopefully it was a solid poop, and then I can cover it back up and we can forget about it. But if it's semi-solid, this method should still work. If it's not, if it's just kind of liquidy, well, I think you're I know it's disgusting. I think you're
I
going
might have thrown up in my mouth just a touch right there. That might have just happened.
to I say kind of dig around, and then turn that soil over. You're okay. I don't
Man,
know, man. I'm not
there's
saying
a-
I'll put
there's-
a tent on top of it.
I'm just saying there's a lot of variables there. And I would say on the whole, I'm probably
Yes.
not taking that campsite.
No, but
Just
you know,
saying on the whole.
but it could be a magnificent campsite.
It could be a magnificent campsite, but you know what? There's a lot of magnificent campsites in this world.
That's true. Find another one. Okay,
So
I'm done.
I might go find another one, but that's just me. I mean, all I'm gonna say is
Got one life. Live it.
that's it. You know, in the words of Jason Wall, you got one life, live it. So,
That's right.
so Jeremiah, it was awesome talking with you today about just the most uncomfortable campsite in the history of mankind. And
Yeah, hopefully some people had a laugh. Hopefully our stories were entertaining, and if they
absolutely,
weren't, people can join us on the live streams.
yes.
What's the date that starts?
Well, our first live stream of the year, or I should say of the new season, which is season number 6, begins September 11th. And that is going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is, what would that be? 5 p.m. Pacific. And we have a couple amazing guests for the very first episode back.
Oh, we got a couple lined up already.
Oh, we do. We have the Gear Bros. You
Oh,
know,
wanna-
the Gear
I'm-
Bros.
I know who they are. Do you want to tell anybody who they are yet?
That would be Justin Hick of Justin Outdoors and Sir Steven of My Life Outdoors. We got 2 all-star guys coming on, and I call them the Gear Bros because, man, those guys have been doing a lot of videos together this year, and they're always entertaining, they're always informative, and they're just better looking than we are. So It's going to be a good night of chatting it up with those guys.
I'm excited, man. Let's
And
do
there
it.
may be a theme song.
Oh, I've heard rumors.
There might be a theme song for the Gear Bros. I'm just saying. I can't guarantee it. Don't hold me to it, but there could be a theme song that night. So that's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on the Backpacking Podcast on YouTube. That is going to be our first live stream of the fall. We can't wait for you guys to be there.
Yes, and we'll put out the audio version as well across all platforms. So don't worry if you're not able to catch it on YouTube. The content will continue to come.
Absolutely. And so for myself and Jeremiah Stringer, we will catch you on the next one.
Adios, folks.